Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to Submarine Base New London and Groton, Connecticut, and to the commissioning ceremony of USS South Dakota. I'm Lieutenant Commander Scotty Murphy, the ship's executive officer. On behalf of our crew, I would like to extend our sincerest thanks for joining us here today. Before our ceremony begins, I would ask you to please silence your cell phones for the duration of the ceremony. Thank you. We are here today to celebrate the commissioning of USS South Dakota, the fourth ship to bear the name of our 40th state. The first South Dakota was a Pennsylvania-class cruiser commissioned in 1908. She served in World War I in the Atlantic Theater before being renamed USS Huron to free her name up for the South Dakota-class battleships. The second ship to bear the name was BB-49, South Dakota-class battleship whose keel was laid but never completed because of the Washington Naval Treaty signed in 1922, which limited the displacement of warships to 10,000 tons. Deemed ineffective by the late 1930s due to German and Japanese aggression, the treaty was abandoned and construction began on a new class of heavy battleships. USS South Dakota BB-57 was commissioned in March 1942. Upon completion of her gunnery trials, she immediately steamed for the Panama Canal on August 16, 1942. On October 12th, she was assigned to several task forces in the Pacific before joining Task Force 61, where she took part in the battles of Santa Cruz Islands, Guadalcanal, Marianas Turkey Shoot, Saipan, Tinian, and Tokyo. She is the most highly decorated World War II battleship, earning 13 battle stars. She was decommissioned in 1962. We are honored to have several members of our crew with us today. These heroes served bravely in the defense of this country, and we are proud to share the unique bond of service and ship name with these fellow sailors. Gentlemen, thank you for your service and protecting this great nation. Please join me in recognizing these heroes and all veterans present. The ship moored before you, affectionately referred to as a boat by members of the submarine community, will soon join America's silent service. South Dakota is the 17th submarine of the Virginia class. With its sister ships, it represents a revolution in submarine design, construction, and mission capability. Brimming with leading-edge technology and advanced engineering, this vessel brings versatility and firepower to the fleet. South Dakota and the Virginia class are among the most effective platforms in the United States Navy, and this warship takes another step forward in advancing the superiority of our submarine force. Able to operate in the far corners of the world's oceans undetected while connected to air, sea, and land-based forces in key shore facilities, these submarines are equipped to wage multidimensional warfare around the globe. South Dakota's adaptability makes it highly responsive to changing mission requirements and providing the nations with the capabilities required to be the distinctive factor in any conflict. In addition to anti-submarine, anti-surface ship, and countermine warfare, South Dakota will support surveillance, special operations, and covert strike missions. Thank you all for allowing each of us to take the privilege to serve our nation as a part of your Navy while proudly bearing the name South Dakota. The submarine you see behind me was christened on October 14, 2017 at the Electric Boat Shipyard in Groton, Connecticut. Today she is complete and battle ready. We are all very proud to serve on the newest attack submarine in the United States Navy. Today's ceremony is a time-honored tradition that began with the commissioning of the Navy's first ship, a captured British schooner, the Margaretta, in 1775. Since then, thousands of ships have undergone the transition from silent hulls to fully alive warships. My shipmates, our commissioning crew, hereafter known as plank owners, are in formation and ready. Will the guests please rise and remain standing for the arrival of our official party, honors, presentation of colors, our national anthem, and the invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, our platform guests. Lieutenant Commander Darren Dunham, Chaplain Corps, United States Navy, Command Chaplain, Naval Submarine Support Center. Former radioman and crewman of Battleship South Dakota, BB-57, Mr. Richard Hackley. Mr. Matt Michaels, Chairman Emeritus, USS South Dakota Commissioning Committee and former Lieutenant Governor of South Dakota. Captain Jeffrey Hayden, United States Navy, Supervisor of Shipbuilding, Groton. Captain Brian Sitlow, United States Navy, Commander, Submarine Squadron 4. Mr. Ken Mahler, Vice President, Newport News Shipbuilding. Mr. Jeffrey Geiger, President, General Dynamics Electric Boat. Ms. Allison Stiller, Principal, Civilian Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Research, Development, and Acquisition. Vice Admiral Chaz Richard, United States Navy, Commander, Submarine Forces. The Honorable Dusty Johnson, United States Representative at Large, State of South Dakota. The Honorable Joe Courtney, United States Representative, State of Connecticut, 2nd District. The Honorable Kristi Noem, Governor, State of South Dakota. The Honorable Mike Rounds, United States Senator, State of South Dakota. The Honorable Richard Blumenthal, United States Senator, State of Connecticut. Ladies and gentlemen, our ship sponsor, Miss Deanie Dempsey, escorted by Senior Chief Petty Officer Adam Gulas, the chief of the boat. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Ned Lamont, Governor, State of Connecticut, escorted today by Commander Craig Liddy, South Dakota's prospective commanding officer. Ladies and gentlemen, honors to the Honorable Ned Lamont and Honorable Kristi Noem. Platform and salute. Platform, ready, 2. Advance the colors. Platform and salute. Retire the colors. Platform, ready, 2. We would like to thank the Navy Band Northeast and the Naval Submarine School Silver Dolphins Color Guard for their participation in today's ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Dunham will deliver the invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we come together today before you to commemorate, to dedicate, to reflect. For almost 119 years, the submariners of the United States Navy have cruised the depths of the oceans. Every day for more than a century, very average, normal human beings, susceptible to all the foibles of mankind, have faced down their apprehensions, their uncertainties, their insecurities, left behind their families and those they hold dear to board vessels of peace for the sake of peace. From the Holland to the South Dakota, this has been so. And while these submariners patrol the darkest, deepest recesses of the earth, as far from the heavens as one can get, we know your presence, God, is closer than the steel of their hulls. Today we give thanks to you, O Lord, for strength and unity. Strength seen in the honest labor of shipbuilders, in the solemn duty of sailors, in the collective spirit of the citizens of South Dakota and our nation. Please remember to be gracious to those of us who through our imperfections seek honor, through our fears display courage, and in the face of the unknown demonstrate unwavering commitment to you, God, and to our country. We ask now for the blessings of omnipotent God on this soon-to-be United States ship, both now and into the future. May all who walk its passageways, who face the perils below the waves, may they feel the love of a nation behind them and the love of a God beside them. May you always guide them to the sailor's favorite port, home. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Dunham. Will the guests please be seated? Ship's company, parade, rest. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Ned Lamont.
Well, good morning, everybody, and to the sailors and their families and the veterans and all the greater Navy family and Governor Nome and the people of South Dakota. You can come down to Connecticut and warm up anytime you want to. And who would have thought that your landlocked state had played such a key role in our Navy mission going back World War II to today? And I just listening, this is an honored ceremony, the commissioning that goes back to 1775, you said, where, truth be told, probably the first submarine built in the world called the Turtle was built in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. And here we are, hundreds of years later, still building the very best submarines in the world. And it means something to me. I come from business, startups, entrepreneurship. If we can keep our companies ahead of the curve, ahead of the competition for a generation or two, we're doing pretty darn well. But that's not good enough for the Navy, and that's not good enough for submarines. We've got to be the best in the world, generation in and generation out. Electric boat has been here over 100 years, and we've been the leaders in submarine manufacturing, almost as long. And we will continue to do that, because this is just an amazing partnership of the Navy and Electric Boat and Newport News and the sailors and workforce development and the Metal Trades Council and the people that do the work. And this is a partnership also of our political folks who know they're not just homers here when it comes to Joe and Dick and the South Dakota delegation. They know how important the submarine fleet is to the security of the United States of America. And for that reason, I cannot be more proud than to be with each and every one of you today, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Governor Lamont. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ken Mahler.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everyone, distinguished platform guests, ladies and gentlemen, and especially our ship sponsor, Ms. Deanie Dempsey. It's my honor to join you today on behalf of our company president, Jennifer Boykin, and the proud shipbuilders of Newport News Shipbuilding who contributed to the construction of South Dakota. Commissioning is a special occasion to celebrate the culmination of years of hard work, dedication, determination by South Dakota shipbuilders and the South Dakota crew. And today it is her crew who will bring the ship to life. This submarine has special meaning for many, including the residents of her namesake state and our supplier community, which includes about half a dozen South Dakota suppliers that provide pieces and parts to Virginia-class submarines. Teamwork builds our nation's warships, and I cannot stress enough the importance of every member of our shipbuilding team here, Newport News, and nationwide. The Newport News and Electric Boat shipbuilding team remains focused and committed to always delivering the world's greatest submarines. The Virginia-class program benefits from multi-ship procurement and serial production, providing greater work stability to our shipyards and the national industrial base of suppliers, and greater cost savings opportunities as we support the Navy in their goal to build a 355-ship fleet. Another recent and very significant example of this strategic approach to shipbuilding occurred on Thursday of this week. Newport News Shipbuilding and the Navy signed a contract for the construction of 2 aircraft carriers, CVN-80 and 81, and this is the first 2-carrier contract in more than 30 years. It's a historic milestone not only for Newport News, but for the entire industrial base and our nation, and this thoughtful approach strengthens the entire shipbuilding industrial base. And I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank the leaders on this platform today who contributed to that success, including Ms. Allison Stiller and Congressman Joe Courtney. Our military and our country are counting on us to get the job done and get it done right. And I feel confident in saying that this shipbuilding team and the magnificent boat, South Dakota, will more than deliver on that responsibility. Submarine South Dakota represents the very best of American manufacturing, innovation, pride, and quality produced by the outstanding shipbuilders at both Electric Boat and Newport News. And we know that when this submarine joins her sister ships, she will quietly roam the seas, standing ready to answer the call to serve. Commander Liddy, congratulations. We wish you and your fine crew Godspeed, and we thank you for your service to our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahler. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jeffrey Geiger.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and the crew of USS South Dakota. I am honored to represent the more than 17,000 men and women of General Dynamics Electric Boat who proudly worked to deliver the South Dakota to our Navy. Today, I'm so happy to see South Dakota sponsor, Mrs. Deanie Dempsey, who dedicated years of service in support of the Army and as a military spouse. After her husband, General Martin Dempsey, was appointed chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mrs. Dempsey continued and expanded that service, representing all branches of the military and their families during her travels and coordinating family support activities for the White House and the Department of Defense. Crew of the South Dakota, I am sure you already know what a wonderful friend and sponsor you have in Deanie Dempsey. The South Dakota is the 17th ship of the Virginia class, and the first in the class to be fitted with improvements which enhance her ability to collect intelligence and detect threats. The South Dakota is, simply, the most modern attack submarine in the world. It is then fitting that this submarine shares its name with the World War II-era battleship, which earned 13 battle stars. The battleship South Dakota featured an innovative hull design that allowed for better underwater protection than its predecessors. Further, designers found that through the creative arrangement of machinery, the South Dakota class could reach speeds in excess of 27 knots. The Navy was proud and protective of this new battleship, and the ship was often identified as Battleship X and Old Nameless in media reports to shield its identity from our adversaries. So like the USS South Dakota before her, this submarine will provide our sailors and our Navy a modern tool possessing unmatched capability and stealth. And the South Dakota will play a pivotal role in our nation's defense and support and sustain the Navy's dominance of the undersea domain. The Virginia class is produced in partnership with our teammate, Newport News Shipbuilding, and together, with the Navy, our supply base, and with the support of the United States Congress, we contribute to the defense of our nation with the most sophisticated submarines in the world. Finally, I want to acknowledge the contributions of Commander Craig Liddy and his outstanding crew. I had the privilege to ride with the crew the very first time they took the South Dakota to sea. As a shipbuilder, it was awe-inspiring to see our complex machine brought to life and gratifying to see her expertly handled by a dedicated and confident crew. Commander Liddy, we wish you and the crew of the South Dakota a safe and distinguished tour of duty. May the USS South Dakota serve you and our nation long and well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geiger. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Dusty Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our boat, not in one way, but in three. First, for those of us who are South Dakotans, this is our boat because it shares the name of our great state. The people of South Dakota over the last few years have been filled with pride as they have met this talented crew and as they have followed the progress of this incredible submarine. There has been a connection made, and as South Dakotans, this is our boat. Secondly, this is our boat as citizens of the United States. This submarine has been paid for by and is to defend our nation. It bears our flag. Its crew takes an oath to this country. Ours is the nation that can put this boat, the most advanced submarine in the history of the world, into commissioning. As citizens of the United States, this is our boat. And finally, this is our boat because of the values that power it, American values. The people gathered here today love freedom and hard work and peace. Accordingly, this boat does not exist to conquer lands or to oppress people. It exists to extend liberty. This boat, its builders, its crew, they all shine with an American spirit, with an American heart. As Americans, this is our boat. Now, the Johnsons are Norwegians, but I have enough Irish blood where I can steal and modify an old Irish proverb for our purposes today. There are good boats, wood boats, boats out to sea, but the best boat is our boat, and may it always be. Ladies and gentlemen, rejoice and be glad. This is our boat.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Joe Courtney.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Lieutenant Commander Murphy. Murphy, Dempsey, Irish Proverbs, Courtney. I'm feeling good about this today. And I just want to say to Governor Lamont and Governor Noem, I've been coming to these for 12 years, and usually when you see there's a waterfront event happening in January, February, you pull out the ice fishing equipment and the blankets, and it looks like Lambeau Field for a Packers game in December, January, maybe Foxborough. But you guys come along, and all of a sudden we got a tent, we got heating, and I mean, it's just like, where you been? That's so. But anyway, and I just want to take a second to, this didn't happen by itself. It was obviously Commander Liddy and his team who are doing the prep for this, but also the amazing people here at Subbase New London. Again, a base that goes back to 1867. One of my predecessors, Congressman Brandegie, got the legislation through that created this base. And we've been really blessed to have a leader here, Captain Paul Whitescarver, whose watch is about to end in May after 3.5 years, and has done just great work in terms of modernizing and upgrading and really making sure that this mission will be an enduring mission. I just want to publicly thank Paul for his great work. Why don't you stand up, Paul? So we have a great lineup of speakers here. I just want to sort of foot stomp one point that Jeff made, that, again, we're a workforce now that's at 17,000. When the South Dakota was first authorized and appropriated in 2013, it was actually a much different shipyard. It was about 11,000. He did a report the other day which noted the fact that the proportion of EB employees in Connecticut and Rhode Island between the ages of 22 and 37 has skyrocketed from 30% of the workforce to more than 50%. This rise of the millennial generation emerging to lead electric boats' important work for the country, I believe, is a powerful rebuttal of cynics and naysayers that say that American manufacturing and technological excellence are a thing of the past. Instead, what we've witnessed during the 5 years that South Dakota was built is a new, emerging, young, talented workforce that will be a pillar of growth, innovation, and prosperity for the U.S. economy, and an example for the years to come. This generational shift, as we can see with the crew here, is also happening in our military. Commander Liddy's crew is populated with a new generation of smart, young, talented sailors and officers operating a submarine that is breaking new grounds in its capabilities. I think we can honestly call South Dakota America's first millennial submarine, from construction, design, into operation. And that's a really pretty exciting thing for our future. Before long, Commander Liddy will assume his place as Captain Liddy, and he and his crew will go on to do great things for our nation, proudly carrying the name of South Dakota. Congratulations to all who have helped make this day possible, and thank you all for what you do for our Navy and our nation.
Thank you, Representative Courtney. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Kristi Noem.
Well, good morning. What a great honor to be with you today. And as a Congresswoman in 2012, I had the opportunity to petition the U.S. Navy along with Senator John Thune and then Senator Tim Johnson and ask if they would name the next attack submarine after our great state of South Dakota. Today is a really special day for me. And it was made even more special when I was back at the museum before the ceremonies today, and I was upstairs visiting with all of Mrs. Dempsey's grandsons. And they informed me that their grandmother's a really big deal. It was awesome. You guys are great. Today is about the past, it's about the present, but it's also about the future. I'm here to deliver a message to the service members, the men who will be serving on the USS South Dakota. I'm here as governor of our state to deliver a message from the people of our state. And they want you to know that they are extremely proud of the legacy that the USS Battleship has had and that we have talked about for many decades. They want you to know that they are tough. They are strong people. They have grit and determination. They wake up every single day and they work hard, yet they have warm hearts. That they are so incredibly grateful for their freedoms and the veterans who have served to make sure that they can wake up in their beds safe each and every day. And that they have watched you as you have performed at sea trials and are so grateful and excited and full of pride at the excellent work that you did and that you came out on top just like South Dakota does each and every time. So let me tell you exactly the message that they want you to remember. As you go forward today, you leave your families as you're deployed, as you endure hardships, but yet you do it for a purpose and for a meaning. They want you to know that they are proud of you, they are grateful for you, they will remember their freedoms, and pray to God each and every day that you will be safe and that you will always come home. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you, Governor Noem. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Richard Blumenthal.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud and honored to be here today to welcome my colleague on the Armed Services Committee, Mike Rounds, who will be our principal speaker. He and I served together, and thank you, Governor Noem, also for joining us. And thanks to all the folks from South Dakota who are here today. Why don't you raise your hand so we can welcome you. Thank you for coming. Thank you all. Mike, looks like about half of the people in your state are here today. Well, we welcome you. And I want to say a special thanks to whoever had the idea for the tent. From now on, we're going to put an earmark. I know they are forbidden, but from now on, the National Defense Authorization Act will be amended to say there must be a tent at every commissioning and every christening of any boat in. Well, Mike's in the majority, so he can tell me what to do. I want to give a special shout out to my colleague, Joe Courtney, who has championed submarines and now as the head of the Naval Subcommittee on the House Armed Services Committee has been a wonderful advocate for our Navy and for our submarines. Thank you, Joe, for all you do and all you do. And special thanks also to our veterans who are here today. If all of the veterans could please raise your hand so we can thank you for your service and what you have done for our nation. Thank you all. And I want to say a word of welcome to the Dempsey family, to Deanie Dempsey. The crew of this ship are enormously fortunate to have her as their sponsor and to have as part of her team General Dempsey, who served with enormous distinction and courage as a member of our United States Army. I hope the Navy will forgive her for that connection. And a welcome as well to their family, their children and grandchildren. Deanie Dempsey has been a powerful and constant advocate for the men and women of our armed services, and particularly for their families, and has raised 3 veterans herself. And so her commitment is really consistent and strong, and I know will be to this boat as well, and reminds us that the men and women who serve are not only the ones who wear the uniform, they are the families who will be behind as this crew goes to sea. So a thanks to the spouses and families of the crew, this crew and every man and woman who serves. As you've heard, this boat is not your grandfather's submarine. It is equipped with acoustic and intelligence and other kinds of equipment that would have been unimaginable just a decade or so ago. It has powers of stealth and strength, versatility that make it capable of gathering vital intelligence so that our men and women in combat will never see a fair fight. They will always have the superiority of knowing more than their adversaries. It will put special operators on the ground. It will destroy, potentially, adversaries at sea. And it will be an advance over any enemy who wants to do us harm. But those enemies are at our heels. They are at our stern. They are planning and working every day and every minute of every day to catch us. We can never be complacent. And so, as mighty and impressive as this boat is, we need to continue to support the men and women who will serve on her, and the men and women who are equally important in designing and engineering and working and producing these great boats. The men and women of Electric Boat, who come to work every day, the men and women in the supply chain, the thousands of contractors who deliver parts and materials and equipment that make this boat a technological revolution. We are so fortunate as a nation to be united in support of our military. And so thank you for being here today to demonstrate that unity and that passion, which will help to keep us the greatest nation in the history of the world. Thank you all. God bless you, and God bless our great nation.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Ladies and gentlemen, Vice Admiral Chaz Richard.
So good morning, everyone. And I think I'd also like to throw a special good morning. I think there's about 800 or so folks who are watching this over at Dealey Center. And this may be kind of like the Super Bowl, right, in terms of you, with all the cameras we have here, they may be actually getting the better view. And so this is a really great day, and it is a particularly great day for me because as the guy who has to put the ship to work right after this ceremony is over, I feel like I'm about to get another 5-star athlete that I can put on the field in the competition that is the defense of this nation. And so excited about that. We've talked about it here a little bit, but I want to highlight the South Dakota namesake. Very proud tradition. We talked about the 1st Armored Cruiser, really highlighted the battleship, her accomplishments in World War II. We talked Navy unit commendation, 13 battle stars, actions throughout the Pacific. And I'll just say, Craig, it's your turn now, right? You and your crew to continue that honor. I also want to acknowledge the ship's sponsor, Deanie Dempsey. It is such a privilege to have you here, ma'am, Chairman. You know, we in the submarine force are often referred to as the silent service, but ma'am, your continued advocacy for the family of hundreds of thousands of service members has been nothing but loud and proud. Our families, just like a submarine, are often on scene, unseen, doing the work that no one else can do but must be done. And South Dakota is fortunate to have a sponsor who has endured the challenges, felt the pride that only comes with being a part of a military family. On behalf of over 28,000 submariners, ma'am, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're living in a world of great power competition, competitors that seek to challenge us and challenge our dominance in the undersea. And for that reason, I submit the nation must continue to build and maintain the finest submarines in the world, select and train the finest sailors in the Navy, and to continue to outfit our boats with the most advanced warfighting systems. And I'll tell you, I know today is about attack submarines and Virginias, but don't forget that our nation's defense is underpinned by strategic deterrent. For the shipbuilders, we're going to need Columbia, too, along the way. Now, South Dakota soon will enter the fleet. Stealth, flexibility, and endurance, traveling silent through the world's oceans, undetected, collecting information, preparing for battle, and if necessary, striking from the deep, swiftly and without warning, to answer the nation's call. Now, none of what I just described would be possible without the Electric Boat team here in Groton, the Huntington Ingalls team down in Newport News, and as we talked about, the vendors from all over the country. These teams build the most complex moving vessels known to man, and they do it with tremendous skill, pride, and patriotism, and I thank you for all that you do. So finally, to the officers and crew, Captain, Commander Liddy, and the fantastic crew, much has been asked of you during sea trials and construction, and today that hard work is going to bring another warship to life. Remember, the CNO, Admiral Richardson, has charged us to embrace every avenue to gain a competitive advantage, from the sea floor to space. And South Dakota today, that competitive advantage is you. So as your motto attests, you must ensure that under the sea we rule, because the nation, the Navy, and the Mount Rushmore state are all depending upon you. May God bless the Navy, the submarine force, and the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Admiral Richard. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Allison Stiller.
Thank you, EXO. Distinguished platform guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm delighted to be here representing Secretary of the Navy Richard Spencer at this commissioning ceremony. Many thanks to Mr. Michaels and the entire commissioning committee who have worked so hard to make this day a reality. And on this beautiful morning, as we bring this submarine to life, I ask that we pause and thank the thousands of servicemen and women who are today sacrificing so much to keep this great nation free. And to those veterans in the audience, thank you for your service. It is fitting that the 17th submarine of the class be named for South Dakota, the 17th largest state in size. The geographical center of our United States is 17 miles west of Castle Rock, South Dakota. And here we are today, which outside feels like 17-degree weather, in the submarine capital of the world, poised to commission SSN 790 into service. Whether you live in South Dakota or here on the East Coast, our security, the strength of our economy, and the face of our diplomacy largely depend upon the Navy's ability to maintain global presence and exercise freedom of the seas. And so, our Navy and Marine Corps team operates forward. And today, like most days, nearly half of our Navy's fleet is underway. As Secretary Spencer recently stated, we are building a more lethal, resilient, and agile force capable of deterring and defeating any enemy in this age of renewed great power competition. To meet his vision, our Navy needs a varied mix of ships to remain second to none. And so today, we welcome the versatility that South Dakota brings to the fleet. She is tailor-made for operations in places where access may be limited, but where presence matters most. Our ability to command the seas is made possible by the thousands of men and women who work tirelessly to bring ships to life. Shipbuilding is a team sport, and today's commissioning is a testament to the skill and professionalism of the Navy industry shipbuilding team. Many thanks to the Navy's Program Executive Officer, Rear Admiral Dave Goggins, and shipyard presidents, Mr. Jeff Geiger and Ms. Jennifer Boykin, for transforming steel, cabling, and equipment into the submarine we see before us. Well done. Naval tradition holds that a ship's sponsor's spirit guides the ship throughout her service life. This submarine is truly blessed to have as her sponsor Mrs. Deanie Dempsey, who is dedicated to our men and women and their families. Thank you, ma'am. You are a permanent member of this ship's crew, the link between today's plank owners and future sailors who will sail in her. Commander Liddy, our Navy has entrusted you with its best, the finest sailors and our newest warship. May you and your crew always embody your ship's motto, "Under the sea we rule." May God bless this fine submarine, her namesake, her crew, and her sponsor, and may God bless America. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our principal speaker today. Senator Mike Rounds has an impressive record of public service, including serving in the state legislature, serving as governor, and most recently as a member of the United States Senate. He serves on both the Armed Services and Veterans Affairs committees and is a strong supporter of our military. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Rounds.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, this is kind of like church on Christmas Eve. Full from one end to the other and people standing in the back. And in this particular case, we have young men and women that are standing, and they have been here for a while. Now, what I would suggest to you is this. I've told my pastor on several occasions that the amount of money in the collection box is directly related to the shortness of his homily. And I intend to follow a similar approach here, okay? First of all, I just want to say this is a great day for the Navy and for the United States of America. I want to thank you. I want to say a special thank you to everybody here, especially the many USS South Dakota service members and distinguished guests that are in attendance. I want to also give a very special thank you from the people of South Dakota to the current and future officers and crew of the USS South Dakota. We will always appreciate and be grateful for the sacrifices that you and your families will make in order to serve on this magnificent vessel. We also want to say thank you to the people who have been involved in the creation of this great submarine, especially to the highly skilled shipyard workers who actually built her. It is a great honor and a humbling moment for me to be here for the commissioning of the USS South Dakota. You've probably heard it before, but I think it's worth saying again. It is not the speech giver who protects our freedom of speech, and it is not the reporter that protects our freedom of the press, and it is not the preacher who protects our freedom of religion, and it most certainly is not the politician who protects our right to vote. It is, as all of you know, the men and the women, generation after generation, who wear the uniform of the United States of America. Without their service, without our service members protecting our freedoms, our nation, like so many others, could have become a victim of those seeking to do us harm. 100 years ago, about 15% of the world's population was living in free or partially free nations. Today, 2/3 of the world are living in freedom. It is one of the world's greatest accomplishments of the last 100 years and perhaps in all of human history, and it could not have been done without men and women like the crew of USS South Dakota, the men and women who wear the uniform of our country. That's why we must always be grateful for the men and the women of our armed forces, current, past, and future. Even though we South Dakotans live about as far away from an ocean as anyone can get, we are fiercely proud of the men and the women who serve on this new submarine now and in the future, just as we are still fiercely proud of those who have served on the 2 previous Navy vessels bearing the same title. This new Virginia-class attack vessel includes state-of-the-art technology designed to increase stealth, as well as revised bow and sonar panels that will allow it to better detect and track other submarines in the area. It's these types of features, coupled most importantly with this talented crew that will be stationed on board, that will play a significant role in our national security efforts for years to come. It's been nearly 7 decades since the last USS South Dakota battleship took to the seas. You've heard a lot of stories about it. The first one was USS South Dakota ACR-9, Pennsylvania-class armored cruiser that was launched in 1904. She performed several missions in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans before the start of World War I. That first USS South Dakota protected Brazilian ports, escorted troop convoys to Europe, and brought troops back from home and from France after the armistice was signed. Her last duty was to serve as the flagship of the Asiatic Fleet in 1919. After that, she was renamed USS Huron, so that the name USS South Dakota could be used for a new class of battleships. The next USS South Dakota, BB-57, she was launched on June 7, 1941, exactly 6 months before the attack on Pearl Harbor. Now, that ship and her crew served in the Pacific Theater for 15 months, receiving 2 Navy Unit Commendation Awards during the battles of Guadalcanal and Santa Cruz Islands. After returning briefly to New York for repairs following the Battle of Guadalcanal, the USS South Dakota then joined the British home fleet in the North Atlantic before returning to the Pacific in 1943. During her second tour in the Pacific, she operated with our fast aircraft carriers during raids on Japanese bases. She used her heavy guns to shell enemy positions during the Marianas Campaign. During the Battle of the Philippine Sea, her main deck was hit by a Japanese bomb, and she once again returned home for repairs. But by the fall of 1944, she was back conducting combat operations, screening carrier task forces during strikes in the Western Pacific. The invasions of Leyte, Luzon, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa were among the operations that she participated in. She was also present in Tokyo Bay on September 2nd, 1945, for Japan's formal surrender. Her actions were reported in newspapers, magazines, and on the radio as the deeds of Battleship X, or Old Nameless, because the Navy wanted to hide information about the battleship from our enemies. USS South Dakota was decommissioned in January 1947. She was inactive until October 1962, when she was sold for scrap metal. But South Dakotans are so fiercely proud of Battleship X that materials were retained and parts of the ship and memorabilia were displayed in the outline of the main deck at a park in Sioux Falls, our state's largest city. Captain Dave Whitty was one of the many people who donated thousands of hours of their time and talents in creating and maintaining the Battleship South Dakota Memorial. For 36 years, Captain Whitty was in the Navy and Naval Reserve, serving in both World War II and the Korean War. For 22 years, he was the president of the Battleship South Dakota Memorial. He also designed and supervised the construction of the Minnehaha County Veterans Memorial and served as its chairman for 17 years. Unfortunately, Captain Whitty isn't here with us today because he died 1 month ago on January 2nd. But I suspect that he is here with us in spirit. May God bless Captain Dave Whitty and all of our veterans living and deceased who served on the USS South Dakota. In addition to her excellent contributions to the war effort, USS South Dakota became famous for something else during the war. The youngest serviceman to fight in World War II was a member of the crew of the USS South Dakota. His name was Calvin Graham. Now, he was on board for the battles of Santa Cruz and Guadalcanal and earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. He was hit by shrapnel in the jaw, and though seriously wounded, he helped pull other crew members to safety. Then, at a slightly later date, he admitted to his gunnery officer that he was underage. His gunnery officer was Sergeant Shriver, whom I understand after the war married quite well to a young lady named Eunice. Anyway, Calvin admitted that he was really, well, he was only 12 years old. Calvin was promptly put in the brig for 3 months and then dishonorably discharged. Then he returned home to Texas, where he celebrated his 13th birthday and resumed his studies in the 7th grade. We are proud and grateful for everyone's service on the battleship USS South Dakota and all of the South Dakotans who went to war. Approximately 65,000 South Dakotans served in World War II. South Dakota had the highest per capita participation rate of any state in the nation. If you count just the people between 18 and 64, 1 out of every 6 persons left South Dakota and went to war. Back home, South Dakotans also did their part by raising crops to feed our nation and our soldiers, our airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard members. Although battleship USS South Dakota and the submarine USS South Dakota are very different, they do have the same overarching mission: to maintain, train, and equip combat-ready naval forces capable of winning wars, deterring aggression, and maintaining freedom of the seas. When Battleship X was launched in 1941, then Secretary of the Navy, Frank Knox, commended them with this message. He said, "I say to you, the good ship South Dakota, God go with you, because after all, your mission, the mission for which we built you, is not war, but the prevention of war as God wills." I say to these officers and this crew today, may God also go with you, and may you help our nation achieve peace through strength for us and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rounds. Ms. Stiller, I would be honored if you would now place South Dakota in commission.
On behalf of the Secretary of the Navy and for the President of the United States, I place United States ship South Dakota in commission. May God bless and guide this warship and all who sail in her.
Thank you, Mrs. Stiller. Executive Officer, hoist the colors and the commission pennant.
Aye, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. I direct your attention to the boat as we hoist the colors and the commission pennant. South Dakota, a 10 hut. Quartermaster, hoist the colors and the commission pennant.
Aye, aye, sir.
Captain, the colors and the commission pennant are flying over USS South Dakota.
Very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
I will now read my orders. From Chief of Naval Personnel to Commander Craig Liddy, United States Navy. Subject, Bureau of Naval Personnel, Order Number 2727. When directed, detach present duty and report to Pre-Commissioning Unit South Dakota for duties in conjunction with fitting out. Upon commissioning USS South Dakota, report for duty as Commanding Officer. Signed, J.W. Hughes, Rear Admiral, United States Navy, Commander, Navy Personnel Command. Vice Admiral Richard, USS South Dakota, is in commission, and I am in command.
Very well. Welcome to the fleet.
Executive Officer, set the watch.
Aye, aye, sir. Off the deck, set the first watch.
Aye, aye, sir.
The officer of the deck is the commanding officer's direct representative and, while on watch, is responsible for the safety and smooth operation of the ship. The long glass is the traditional symbol of an officer of the deck's authority in a ship of the line. To assist in this tradition, Mr. Richard Hackley will assist in setting the first watch by passing the long glass to our first officer of the deck, Lieutenant Ben McFarland from Nevada, Iowa. Petty Officer of the deck is Petty Officer Second Class Casey Strickland from Calhoun, Georgia. Topside Sentry is Petty Officer Third Class Matthew Wilson from Apopka, Florida. Bosun's mate of the watch is Petty Officer Second Class LaPlace Moore from Winona, Mississippi.
Set the watch. On deck, Section 1.
Sir, the watch is set.
Very well. Captain, the watch is set.
Very well. We're delighted here today to have our sponsor, Miss Deanie Dempsey, with us. Miss Dempsey christened South Dakota on October 14th, 2017. Miss Dempsey, I'd be honored if you would join me now and give the order to man our ship and bring her to life.
Officers and crew of the USS South Dakota, man our ship and bring her to life.
Ladies and gentlemen, the crew of USS South Dakota salute you. We are proud to serve in your great Navy. Ready? 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Captain, the ship is manned and ready.
Very well. Vice Admiral Richard, USS South Dakota reports for duty.
Very well.
Sir, request to break your flag.
Break my flag.
Aye, sir. XO, break the flag of Vice Admiral Richard.
Aye, sir. Quartermaster, break the flag of Vice Admiral Richard.
Aye, aye, sir.
Captain, the flag of Vice Admiral Richard is flying over USS South Dakota.
Very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Craig Liddy, United States Navy, Commanding Officer, USS South Dakota.
South Dakota, parade rest. Good morning, governors, senators, representatives, Ms. Dempsey, admirals, distinguished guests, family, friends, and shipmates. Thank you for being here today to take part in the commissioning of USS South Dakota. Today we celebrate the great accomplishments of our shipbuilder, and Navy team for the outstanding design, construction, and testing of South Dakota. Today, we honor the arrival of the nation's newest warship and most capable warship to the fleet. Today, South Dakota assumes the watch and takes her place as the defender of freedom around the globe. It is a privilege to be a part of the greatest submarine force and Navy the world has ever seen. On board South Dakota, we have a great appreciation and respect for the sacrifices of those who have stood the watch before us. To all veterans, especially our shipmates from the mighty battleship South Dakota, we thank you for your service, your dedication, and your continued inspiration. We must also take a moment to thank our families for their constant love, support, and understanding. To all of the parents, spouses, brothers, sisters, and children that have joined us here or are watching on the live stream, we are a team, and we truly recognize the sacrifices that you continue to make on a daily basis for South Dakota's continued success. There is another special group of Americans that we must recognize today, those that traveled from our great namesake state of South Dakota. We thank you. The entire commissioning committee has shown outstanding enthusiasm and steadfast devotion to supporting the crew and making today possible. Their efforts have built an unbreakable bond between the mighty crew and the proud citizens of South Dakota. I am confident because of their efforts, this great relationship will continue for decades. Thank you all for your support. I would also like to recognize our sponsor, Ms. Deanie Dempsey. Deanie, the energy you've brought to South Dakota from the very beginning has been nothing short of amazing. The example that you set each day drives us all to better ourselves and work to better the lives of others. We are proud to have you as our sponsor, and we cherish having you here today to celebrate this great milestone. The warship in front of you today exemplifies the strength and power that resides throughout our great nation. Designed and built by dedicated Americans, she is not only a modern marvel of technology, but also a home that protects her crew. She has been built to be the silent protector of democracy, capable of taking the fight forward to the enemy. Constructed with power and redundancy, she is capable of sustaining battle damage and remaining in the fight. She is truly nothing less than impressive. I must say thank you all again to the shipbuilders who worked tirelessly to deliver South Dakota to our submarine force. All of these strengths, however, require a motivated crew, skilled in the profession of submarine warfare to deliver those true capabilities. I will be the first to tell you that the crew of South Dakota fits this bill. These men are warriors. They are experts in their field. They train continuously, always seeking improvement, never accepting anything other than excellence. They come from small towns and major cities, from nearly every state in the nation. They are diverse, but they are unified. And more importantly, they are family. Always willing to put their ship and their shipmates above themselves. They teach each other, they rely on each other for strength, and they take care of each other. I can confidently offer these words today because I've seen them at sea. Through trials and testing, the crew of South Dakota has already steamed thousands of miles, masterfully demonstrating their skills. I am proud to serve with all of you, and I look forward to the many outstanding ventures that we will share together in defense of our great nation. Today is a great day, a day that South Dakota will never forget. To the family and friends of the crew, both here today and afar, thank you again for your support and sacrifice. We simply could not do what we do without all of you. I know I speak for the entire crew when I say thank you all for joining us in this very special occasion. God bless USS South Dakota, our great submarine force, Navy, and nation.
South Dakota, tin hut. Will the guests please rise or remain standing? Chaplain Gentleman will deliver the benediction.
Under God, the people rule. Let's pray. Father God, where can we hide from you? Where can we flee from your presence? If we soar into the heavens in jets, you are there. If we submerge and steal submarines into the deepest depths of the ocean made by you, you are there. If our helicopters lift off the rolling decks of gray ships and rise on the wings of the dawn, even over hostile waters, you are there. When we hug our wives and our husbands, when we bid farewell to our children for months of separation, when we deploy to the far sides of the world, you are still there. As the men and women of our Navy, Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Coast Guard steel their hearts to wade into worlds of chaos for the sake of peace, you are there. Today, we ask the God who is and has been everywhere to be with our service members, our families, our country, our leaders. In your holy name, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain.